Your top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. 53-year-old security guard killed, body found with throat slashed. Prepare yourself for oil and gas revenues. African professor implores Guyana to take lessons from his continent. And youth involvement in crime disappointing, says Minister Ramjatan. Forum slated to address the issue. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Thursday, July 6th edition of the HGP Nightly News. Here's what's happening. A Kenyan professor has warned Guyana to guard against the troubles of oil by avoiding the mistakes made in parts of Africa. Rodin James reports this evening.
It is the hope of Professor Kennedy M. Kutu of the United States International University located in Nairobi, Kenya, that Guyana will seriously take into consideration some of the negatives which emanated in parts of Africa when those countries became oil-producing nations. Professor M. Kutu, who is also the author of Guns and Governance, made reference to the early troubles parts of Kenya faced when that country discovered oil. The professor's remarks were made at the opening of the Public Corruption and Oil Curse Symposium on Thursday at the Pegasus Hotel.
Now, when oil was discovered in Turkana, for the other parts of Kenya, this is what they said: rejoice, we have discovered oil. But you see, these are the Turkana. The Turkana were asking, how about water? And so already you can start seeing the disconnect between the national and the local communities.
He also made reference to Angola, where there is said to be an open door for corruption.
Angola, you have 4.2 billion each year that is not accounted for. And so when we think about the resource curse, it can lead to the social contract. The social contract breaks down because the government does not need the people. The oil is, the government does not need tax money. And so basically the social contract between the people and the government breaks down. And that is what has happened in Angola, where the government does not need tax money because the oil money can do the job.
In the last 6 years, there has been major oil discoveries in East Africa, the area which is being called the New Frontier. The professor said most of those areas where the discoveries were made are being marginalized.
And so with all these discoveries, what we are seeing is this has triggered investor and government interests from all over the world. And so, Guyana, be ready. Be ready. Because the oil is going to bring as many investors. And so this will raise geopolitical issues.
The professor highlighted that although most parts of Africa are rich, they are still underdeveloped. He noted too that most of the oil resources are in the pockets of the elites. He made reference to Nigeria, where there are scores of billionaires, while the ordinary folks suffer. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Royden. With the police now. A gruesome Thursday morning scene. The body of a security guard was found with his throat slashed. Jeffon Vickery is on this story.
The police are hoping that these two surveillance cameras at the Hai Matadi Ishant General Store owned by Chinese nationals on Rob Street can identify the person or persons involved in the murder of 53-year-old Sammy Prowell of Mucka, Arcadia. The body of Prowell was discovered on Thursday morning, with his throat slit and slumped up on a wooden table. Several persons on their way to work called the police on the scene. When Nightly News arrived on the scene Thursday morning, close to a dozen ranks from the Criminal Investigations Department were seen carting off the area while they conducted their investigations. Operations Manager of the Transportation and Protection Security Agency, Mark Samuels, says Prowell had been employed with the company for about 3 months. Samuels, who stated that this is the first time one of the company's security personnel was killed in the line of duty, believes that his usual conflicts with vagrants could have been the reason for his demise.
Ought to be, because there was no attempt breakage on the location. The location was secured. I don't know if he had any, but what happens sometimes when I come visiting here, you find a lot of junkies in the area, and he would like kind of be aggressive to them, right? And I spoke to him several times, and I told him, I said, when you're working out here, you got to be friendly, because remember this, that the area is lonesome, right? So instead of creating enemies, you try to create friendship. But he had this kind of attitude. So I don't know what brought that, because you notice if you check around, there was no attempt breakage or anything of the sort. But that needs to be investigated. I am not the crime chief.
He further added that the incident should be a lesson for not only the security service, but also law enforcement agents who he said should have been patrolling the area. The gruesome incident has now left a family asking many questions. Prowell's brother, Farley Scipio, said he believes that more than one person had been responsible for his brother's death.
Was he a very aggressive person? Maybe he had any problems with anybody that might have won?
Not to be knowing, not to be knowing. And then I just sent to my friends, my neighbors and my family, just to them that if it's man to man, it would be nothing easy with them. It got to be more than one person. Kill him. Can't be no one person killing. Because you're not a boy that could get past man to man. If it's with me, you're going to be a story, you know. So you know that it can't be man to man, you understand? You got to be somebody. More than one person got to do the thing. Because you're not an invalid. You're a stiff youth, you know what I mean? You went in the army and all these things, you understand? So I know to myself that you don't know one person of this thing.
Prowell leaves to mourn 3 children. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Javon. Guyana is being schooled by representatives of reputable organizations to immediately begin enforcing high standards of probity regarding public funds before the proceeds of the emerging oil and gas industry start to flow. A symposium heard on Thursday that if Guyana gets caught up in the resource curse, its people will suffer immensely. Here's Rodden James with more.
Reputable persons who have been there and seen the calamity generated by the misuse of oil resources are putting Guyana on guard. The Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting, in collaboration with the Guyana Oil and Gas Association, co-hosted by the African Business Roundtable, convened a 2-day symposium on Thursday entitled Public Corruption and the Oil Curse: Lessons from Developing Countries. A candid presentation by the Managing Director of Raymond and Pierre Limited of Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Afra Raymond, it was noted that the oil industry in the majority of developing countries is associated with widespread corruption, procurements and other forms of fraud, tax evasion, among other setbacks.
So corruption has a lot of what economists call externalities. It's not just a question of measuring how much money this contractor stole when they were building that bridge. If that contractor will only hire corrupt engineers, and the ministry itself will only promote corrupt engineers, and your son did engineering, and he gets a chance, he's not going to stay. He's going to go. And that is the impact on our region.
Professor Raymond stressed that the blind pursuit of oil revenue in most developing countries has crippled and fundamentally weakened the structure of their economies, reduced self-sufficiency, increased poverty, national dependency, and diminished the value of oil revenue.
Public money ought to be managed and accounted for to a higher standard than private money. So that needs to be a very serious piece of understanding. Public money must always be accounted for and managed to a higher standard than private money. It's not a joke thing.
But Guyana also came in for high praises for the establishment of the Public Procurement Commission in October 2016. Ms. Vicky McPherson, a shareholder in the Global Energy and Infrastructure Group, underscored the need for the people to be more watchful of decision makers. This, she said, will help, not stop, officials from engaging in corrupt practices.
But I think the most important thing to acknowledge about corruption is that you can have all of the laws and regulations in place, but if you don't have the leadership and the personal conviction, quite frankly, to not steal from the public coffers, none of this matters. And so that's why I want to underscore the importance of the role of civil society and free press, quite frankly, in all of this.
Professor Raymond also suggested that there is a need to revisit Guyana's state assets recovery legislation to strengthen clauses that address immunity and the protection of whistleblowers. Roy Den James, HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. It's disappointing. That's the expression by Minister Ramjatan, who spoke to reporters on youth involvement in crime. He addressed the recent attempted bank robbery. Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan believes that government needs to do more to address the scourge of youth involvement in crime. The minister was speaking directly to the recent attempted robbery at Republic Bank on Tuesday.
It is not a nice scene. It's a pretty negative aspect to know that people who have graduated, who got scholarship, who got duty-free concession, all that, they're now going to be the masterminds for crime. These, of course, are the preliminary reports, but of course, I want to believe that the preliminary reports have gotten it right.
To this end, a crime and youth violence forum is scheduled for the Pegasus Hotel on July 12 to properly address the issue. Ramjatan said he's particularly concerned with the path some youths take, like the trio who attempted to rob the bank.
What is disappointing about this whole thing is that some bright kids trained in China have done their parents such a bad thing to want to go rob a bank. And they had almost all the world at their feet, really. But, you know, it is greed, I suppose, it's immaturity, so many negative things. But we have to do lots more with youth. And I'll also be speaking on this probably on the 12th of July at the Pegasus Hotel, crime and youth violence.
Elton Ray was shot dead and two others captured minutes after they attempted to flee from a botched robbery at Republic Bank. Personnel from the Professional Guard Service are being specifically commended by the minister.
Efforts of the PGS have to be commended. They were there first at the scene, and I want to congratulate their very quick thinking and the fact that they managed to foil the attempt at the bank of these robbers. Of course, they were there first. The police came and didn't. And in combination with the PGS, I am so proud of the fact that indeed that our private security services, in combination with the police, have managed to foil this attack.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. In the courts, the woman accused of causing her friend's death after a drinking spree at Liliendahl 2 weeks ago was granted $500,000 bail. Jevon Vickery reports.
The granting of the increased sum of bail comes in wake of criticisms from road safety activists who were up in arms over the small amount previously granted and regularly handed down to alleged traffic offenders. 27-year-old Tekona Welcome of 39 Austin Street, Camerville, was charged on Thursday for causing the death of her friend, Deborah Pompey, while driving in a manner dangerous to the public. Welcome denied the allegation. Attorney-at-law Nigel Anthony, who represented Welcome, stated that since the death of Pompey, his client has been shattered by the incident. He assured Magistrate Alicia George that his client would return to court if granted bail. The prosecution objected to bail on the grounds that the accused has not reported to the Sparendam police station, even though she was ordered to do so. Magistrate George, however, granted bail. Welcome will make her next court appearance on August 4 at the Sparendam Magistrates Court. Jevon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Thank you, Jevon. Nothing is holding up judicial appointments. Minister Harman assured the Berbice Chambers that judges will soon be appointed. Here's more. Minister of State Joseph Harmon has confirmed that the appointment of judges to the High Court and Court of Appeal is engaging the attention of President David Granger and that the matter will be addressed soon. His remarks came at a recent event in New Amsterdam, during which he addressed the Berbice business community.
So there is nothing holding up judicial appointments, and it is something that we are very conscious about, that in a strong democracy, you must have a very strong judiciary.
The non-appointment of judges had prompted the People's Progressive Party to accuse President Granger of constitutional heresy for balking at the recommendations of the Judicial Service Commission.
The judicial appointments will be made. I know for sure that the system is working. The Judicial Service Commission makes their recommendation, and the recommendation goes to His Excellency, who acts upon them.
The JSC had recommended in March of 2016 that the President appoint 4 judges to the judiciary.
In cases where action has not been taken, it has been at the request of the judiciary to hold on until certain things are put in place.
Minister Harmon stressed that the 3 branches of government must be independent and must be given the resources to perform in an independent manner. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. The issue of suicide prevention in Guyana is getting additional support from bilateral and international partners through the restructuring of the mental health unit. More from Ayana George.
Guyana, its international partners, and other stakeholders are set to restructure the mental health unit to tackle suicide more frontally. Minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Karen Cummins, says Guyana had a suicide statistics rate of 44.2 per 100,000 people, but that has improved through the work of the newly established mental health unit.
Females attempted suicide more frequently than their male counterparts at a ratio of 3 to 1. East Indians had accounted for 50% of the cases, whereas Afro-Guyanese had accounted for 26% of the cases.
The common risk factors identified were acute emotional distress and depression at 37%, accessibility to lethal substances 64%, alcohol and drug use 32%, and family dysfunction 43%.
The Ministry of Public Health immediately formed a multidisciplinary team consisting of the Ministries of Education, Social Protection, Agriculture, Indigenous Communities, and Public Security, and formed a national task force to address suicide.
The minister said enhancing awareness and prevention through education is a vital part of the strategy to tackle suicide. PAHO WHO Country Representative Dr. William Adu Crow recommended that emphasis be placed on persons who have attempted suicide and those exposed to forms of discrimination.
Post-prevention management is very important. That is, the post-prevention management are for those who actually attempt and don't die. We need to seriously have a program that aggressively looks at them and helps them build their coping mechanisms.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
Thank you, Ayana. Before legislation is passed in the National Assembly to protect internet users from scams, bullying and attacks, Minister of Public Telecommunications Catherine Hughes believes that citizens must take responsibility for what they do on social media. Javon Vickery is on this story.
The internet is such a vast thing. There's no way I would be able to police if Javon Vickery says something unacceptable right now, you know. But certainly if it comes to me or if somebody makes it aware, and that's why we put in the legislation in place, so that in situations where we can bring the perpetrator to a court, we have the laws that the adequate punishment can be applied.
Minister of Public Telecommunications Catherine Hughes. She stated that the process has already begun to enlighten stakeholders in the education sector about the benefits and negatives of the World Wide Web, specifically for young users. And before internet access can be given to schools countrywide, the Ministry of Telecommunications and the Ministry of Education must first find a way to protect young users.
We had a very good encounter a week ago with the local representative of UNICEF. UNICEF as an international agency has been doing a lot of work in the area of cybersecurity and the protection of children's rights. And it was really good to be able to get guidance from them. There are some reports. There are also some policy positions. There's even a policy on how you should be using the internet.
Derogatory and threatening remarks on social media has in recent times led to the arrest of several key figures, yes, adults, under archaic legislation which eventually results in the dismissal of court cases. According to Minister Hughes, the passing of 5 important new pieces of legislation will see users being protected against wrongdoers, commonly referred to as internet trolls.
Because, we forget some of these laws that were enacted in the 90s or 10 years ago or whenever. The kinds of situations that exist today did not exist then. And therefore, there's data protection legislation. There's cybersecurity legislation. All these are bits. There are about 5 pieces of legislation that we're now having to go back and we're having to look at. And those bits of legislation will have to be brought to the Parliament.
Minister Hughes noted that protecting children and young adults has become a key priority for not only the ministry, but also the government of Guyana. She stated that the ministry, along with the Education Ministry, will soon implement a plan to protect and block harmful usage of the internet. Javon Vickery, HGP Nightly News.
Ayana George will tell you now that probation officers tell Plaisance youths stay away from crime, education and employment, the gateway out of poverty.
Youths of various depressed communities are to be mentored on a number of societal issues through an outreach program by the Probation Department of the Ministry of Social Protection. Last Sunday, a group of probation officers visited the Eddie Grant Research Center, Plaisance East Coast Demerara, for a candid conversation with young people of that community. Probation Officer Deborah Joseph addressed the youths on violence, HIV/AIDS, and crime.
Some places in Guyana are poverty-stricken. The only way we could rise above that is remaining in school and stay focused and stick with our books. Not all of us are cut out to sit behind a desk to be a doctor or to be some high-profile person in society. But if you have the basic secondary school education, it will take you a far way.
Ms. Joseph explained to the youth the importance of moving away from poverty through education and employment. She stressed that too many youths are crowding the jails for crimes because of the refusal to seek conflict resolution. Other topics raised were reckless sex habits by children still attending school.
AIDS is here to stay, and the only way we in here will not be affected by it is if we abstain or if we remain faithful. I'm talking in general. I know y'all are kids, but y'all are taught this in school. And let me tell y'all something that y'all may not know. A lot of schools, I want to shout the car, Ms. Grant might be able to bear me out. A lot of schools have kids attending who are HIV positive.
The probation officer disclosed that more than 5 students around Georgetown become pregnant before writing their CXC exams. The group of probation officers will be visiting Agricola East Bank Demerara on July 24th.
And I'm begging you, and I am hoping that our words don't fall on deaf ears, right? You children, remain in school.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, Ayana George.
After spending 50 years of providing services and products for Guyanese, Farfan and Mendez opines that the emerging oil and gas sector will propel the country in terms of standard and growth. Kristen Macklingam reports.
It is expected that the emerging oil and gas sector in Guyana will bring good tidings in light of the slow growth of the economy. That's the hope of Managing Director of Farfan and Mendez, Andrew Mendez, who stated that this sector will provide a number of developmental avenues for not only his company, but the country on a whole.
You've been in Guyana functioning for a number of years now, and over the years you've faced challenges and had difficulties that you overcame. Are there presently any challenges in any terms that you guys are facing here?
Well, I mean, the economy is a little bit on the slow side, but we're holding our own. I would see that with the oil and gas coming, there's significant opportunities, but not maybe where people necessarily see it.
Mr. Mendes posited that there will be growth and elevation of standards in the economy due to the oil and gas sector, since there will be a drive in sales for quality products and services.
So we see the potential for real growth in that year, and that's where we really see the market for being driven by the oil and gas. Also too, in the past, we have been the ones that have driven standards, tried to drive standards in the local market. And with the oil and gas coming now, they're now going to pull the rest of the country up in terms of meeting and exceeding standards that they're.
He added that while his company can supply some services and products to the oil and gas sector directly, there is room for competition from other companies in this regard. Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
156 persons from 3 vulnerable communities are now knowledgeable in a number of skills following training provided by the CDB's Basic Needs Trust Fund program. Here again is Kristen Macklingham.
When youths and young adults take the reins of their lives and set courses for their legacies, this will only serve to empower them and take a country forward. That's what Minister of Finance Winston Jordan said when he addressed the 158 graduates of this year's BNTF program on Thursday.
The fact that you are graduating today with skills which enable you to not fall prey to those vulnerabilities of your communities is cause for celebration indeed. But what will you do with these skills? Are you going to sit on them, or are you going to exploit them for all they're worth, so that you can better your lives and those of your children?
Minister Jordan stated that while unemployment in Guyana poses a serious problem to the nation's development, the administration aims to provide as many opportunities as it can for all young people, particularly those who hail from vulnerable communities. However, it is up to each participant and graduate to utilize the training and expertise they have received in the best ways possible.
So there are opportunities for you to earn a living and skills training that you have benefited from as a first step. Congratulations for staying the course. This is not the end. Rather, it is the beginning of your journey to becoming worthwhile members of society.
This graduation ceremony was considered auspicious by those who spearheaded the training programs, since this was the first time participants hailed from several communities and graduated together. That's according to Mr. Bernard Lord of the program.
I would be the first to say that these 3 skills training programs were successful, not because of the numbers of graduates represented here today, but simply because of the nature of BNTF interventions. We finance projects and programs defined at the community level. We address issues and concerns of the grassroots, of those key stakeholders that might not have another voice.
Reporting for HGP Nightly News, I am Kristen Macklingham.
I'm Calvin Chapman with the HGP Sportscast. Good evening. The 2017 Caribbean Squash Arena Junior Championship being contested at the Georgetown Club Squash Courts has reached the team stage, where Guyana will be looking to defend their overall title, which they have won consecutively for over a decade. 5 teams are competing for top honors, but Guyana's closest rivals and the other genuine competitor for the title is Barbados. The Bajans won 6 of the 10 titles that were up for grabs during the individual leg of the competition. This morning, July 6th, the Guyanese boys made light work of Trinidad and Tobago in their first team matchup, as they won all 5 games. Guyana's captain Benjamin McDeesey defeated Nicholas Scadle by straight sets in the under-19 category. Then, Jonathan Blanc finished the second under-19 match, winning 3-2 against TNT's Richu Sewak. As expected, Shamari Wilshire defeated Christopher Anthony in straight sets in the under-15 matchup, and to conclude the boys' first team game, Guyana's Michael Alfonso defeated Seth Tong, who won the under-11 individual category, in straight sets to close off the under-13 matchup of the team play. After the game, Alfonso expressed how important the team title is to the Guyana team.
Remember, we won 12 years in a row, and this year we have to win 13 because we're in our own Guyana country. After we won all those years, I think we should win this year for Guyana.
After the morning sessions, rivals Guyana and Barbados were tied on 13 wins each. In Judicial Schools football, East Coast Demerara's champion Anns Grove was dumped out of the 7th annual Judicial Schools Football Championship, losing 5-1 to unfancied Golden Grove yesterday at the Better-for-Wacton ground. The contest, which was officiated by the GFF head of referee department Stanley Lancaster, was marred by fighting in the 12th minute as Cordell Thomas of Golden Grove and Nyron Bacchus of Anns Grove were issued red cards. The incident didn't hinder the challenger as Kofi Huntley opened the scoring in the 20th minute and led Golden Grove with 2 goals as they defeated Anns Grove by a 4-goal margin. Anns Grove, who started with 9 players, were eventually reduced to 7 men as Golden Grove booted them from the championship. In more football, the Guinness National Playoffs launched. The eagerly anticipated 5th edition of the Guinness Greatest of the Streets National Playoffs was officially launched today during a simple ceremony that was conducted at the Bangsia H Limited Sports Club. The tournament, which will start on Friday in the mining town of Linden, will be played over 3 days in different locations, with the West Demerara and Georgetown being other communities that will witness 16 teams from 6 zones battle for the coveted first prize and bragging rights for 1 year. Georgetown will be represented by Sparta Boss, who is also the reigning title holders and 2015 champions as well. Inaugural winners Back Circle, who won the title in 2013, Tugville and Broad Street, while Dave and Selena's All-Stars, champions of Linden, Swag Entertainment, and German and Family Silver Bullets will represent the mining town. The East Coast of Demerara representatives are Melanie B, champions, Pleasance B, and Buxton Diamond, while Showstoppers champions, Hustlers and Money Team are the West Demerara East Bank Demerara ambassadors. New Amsterdam Kings champion and East Bank Godders are the Berbice representatives, while Riverview champion will be the sole entry from Bartica. Meanwhile, the fixtures for opening night will see New Amsterdam Kings tackle Melanie B at 20 hours, and this encounter will be followed by the clash between Swag Entertainment and Buxton Diamond from 2045, with at least 6 games slated. In basketball, the National Schools Basketball Festival continued last night at the Cliff Anderson Sports Hall. Here are results of games played. President's College under 16 defeated St. Joseph High 52-19 points, ranking McDonald 13 points, 14 rebounds, Akinyan Dyrell 10 points, 7 rebounds, and Jesse Thomas 9 points, 7 rebounds. Shaquan Gill scored 11 points, 5 rebounds for St. Joseph. Martin Academy under 16 blew out New Amsterdam Multilateral 44-5 points. Achille Haynes 15 points, 7 rebounds. Josiah Daniel 11 points, 5 rebounds, and Jedder Harris 10 points, 6 rebounds, 5 steals. Imitas John Doe scored 3 points, 4 rebounds for New Amsterdam Multilateral Secondary. President's College overcame St. Rose's High in overtime 52-46 points. Anton Feline 25 points, 4 rebounds, 5 steals, and Akeem Crandon 18 points, 22 rebounds. Anthony Jansen 21 points, 9 rebounds, 6 steals, and Kwesi Roberts 15 points, 10 rebounds, 7 steals for St. Rose's in the losing effort. The tournament breaks for the 2017 All-Star Game that plays tonight, Thursday, and return with the championship rounds on Friday through Sunday. 6 games are scheduled for Friday, starting at 2 p.m. And that's all we have for you on the HGP Sportscast. It's now back to you, Travis.
53-year-old security guard killed, body found with throat slashed. Prepare yourself for oil and gas revenues. African professor implores Guyana to take lessons from his continent. And youth involvement in crime disappointing, says Minister Ramjatan. Forum slated to address the issue. Those were our major headlines. For these stories and more, you can go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.